Welcome back to the Ultimate Mixdown, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. In this video, I wanted to share a few awesome resources for thousands of free, quality virtual instruments and sample libraries. I'm talking specifically about Spitfire Audio's labs and Pianobook, and I'll show you in this video how to install all of them. I'll show you how to pull them up in your DAW, and then I'll even show you a few demos of some of the sounds that you can get absolutely free. So be sure to stick around to the end, and let's dive right into it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is Spitfire Audio Labs. So go ahead to spitfireaudio.com and that'll bring you to this landing page that you see here. And then to get to Labs, you can either go to the Discover tab and click on Labs, or you can just scroll down a little bit and you'll see Labs down here, and you can click on that. Once the lab page opens, you'll have a Getting Started link, you'll have some FAQs and a What is Labs link, which gives you a video, an overview of all about labs, so I would definitely implore you to check that out. But when you go down a little bit further, this is where all the virtual instruments exist on the web page. So you can search by different types of instruments or different types of sounds. You can go by newest, most popular. There's different types of filters to check through these instruments. And then you can go and click on each one, or you could click this little demo to hear what it sounds like. But before you can start doing all that fun stuff, you have to start with getting started. So click on this little link right here. The first thing you want to do is download the Spitfire Audio app, but in order to do that, you need to have an account created. So go ahead and create an account with spitfireaudio.com right now. It's free. If you go ahead and try to download it for your operating system and you don't have an account, it will ask you to create it then. And then once you do that, you're able to actually download those libraries that we saw under the virtual instruments section of the labs page. So downloading the application and installing it, run the installer that is created when you click the download button, and then this is the application that you'll see when you open it up. You might not see the products that I have here, but you'll have Spitfire Audio, and then you'll have the Labs tab. And in the Labs tab, you have not installed instruments if you've installed any, updates when they're available for those instruments, and then you also have a search bar to look for specific instruments as well. Coming back to the Labs virtual instruments section, you can download all if you want to download all by clicking this, and this will actually open the application, the Spitfire Audio application for you if it's not already open. But this could bring all of the labs instruments to your application as installed, and then you can go from there and use them in your DAW under the Spitfire Labs VST. Now I find it easier just to navigate under this application, so you don't even need the website once you have the application downloaded in order to install these. Now before you even install these, we got to think about, if we're going to download and install a bunch of virtual instruments with the associated samples, then you can see some of these get pretty high, 1.45 gigs just for this one instrument, 1.87 here for this instrument. One major thing I always emphasize is saving your virtual instrument presets, packs, samples, all that stuff to an external hard drive. And you can actually set that under settings before you even install anything. Actually, I highly recommend doing it before you install any of the labs, because it was quite a pain to change this after the fact. The install location is fine. You can have it installed on your local machine. You should have it installed on your local machine. But I'm talking again about all the sound banks that you want, all those large files and stuff that are related to these instruments. So you go to default content path and you can change it to your external hard drive if you want to go that route. So I've changed it to my external hard drive. I have a whole sound banks folder for all my sound banks across all the different types of virtual instruments I use. And then I have a Spitfire folder in there. And that's where all these things will get stored. So once you do that, once you have the location all set, then you can go into Labs, Not Installed, and then you can search for something. For the ones that aren't installed, you can click the Install button and it will automatically install it for you. So I'll go ahead and do that for this Orchestra. And right here, it's going to let you select a location for where you want that sound bank to be installed, or that virtual instrument sound bank. So I'll do that Spitfire folder that I did on my external hard drive and click Download. And then this is going to take a little bit, but it's going to reside in the downloading folder as it's downloaded. And then once it's done downloading, it'll install it, and then it'll show up under your installed tab. So I have the Tape Orchestra here now. Now, if you run into any issues, you can always come in here and repair it. Look, if you open your DAW, you select this instrument, and for some reason it can't find the sound banks, then you come here, click Repair, or you can click on this little gear, and you can repair all your labs, so all of your virtual instruments. If it's a location issue, you're getting some kind of error, it can't find the virtual instrument, you can click locate. And then reset is kind of resetting all of your labs. So I wouldn't really use that unless absolutely necessary, and then reinstall everything that you wanted installed. That's enough about the installation. As always, I use my virtual instruments in my DAW. So I'm going to go ahead and open a new session of Reaper. Okay, and we're going to do a new project ignoring default template. And I'm just going to call this Labs and Pianobook and save it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create a new track, double click in the track control panel. We're going to select our input for our MIDI keyboard or whatever MIDI controller. Go ahead and click that. And if you don't have one, it doesn't matter because you can use the MIDI editor and just draw in the notes anyway. And then we'll click our inserts and we'll put labs on. So I like to use the VST3 when possible because there's some added functionality that I really like. Like in some of the VST3 windows, you can expand the instrument to full screen, which is really cool. But this brings up the labs. So this is a very nice and clean user interface. So you have your instrument selection at the top and you can actually see the piano at the bottom. But we're going to go ahead and select a piano, and that's going to be the tape piano we talked about earlier. And when you're going through and searching, you can search by the instrument type. And then once you get to the instrument type, then it gives you all the different instruments of that type that you installed. And then you can select different presets from there. So I'm just going to click this. You could double click or you could click load to load it. But also note that you could preview it right here and just get a feel for the sound. And you can also favorite these so you can come back to them a little quicker. So I'm going to click load, and this has loaded that tape piano. So now we can hear it. If you can't hear it, just make sure input monitoring is on. If you're going to record with a virtual instrument, make sure record arm is on, just so that when we click record, it picks up the MIDI that's being generated from your MIDI controller. So we have the instrument here now, so let's just hear what it sounds like. And if we go a little lower. And even lower. It's nice and clean. It sounds like a pretty decent upright piano with that kind of tapey vintage sound. It sounds nice and clean up top. It's really nice. It's nice and clean. And that's just one of the presets for this one instrument that came absolutely free from Labs. So I could take a different preset, like the felt cassette, and that has a slightly different tone. Okay, and then you can even switch out the instruments altogether. Like I have this Autograph Grand that I installed through the Spitfire audio application, and there's only one preset. Let's open it up, and it's a nice clean grand piano. So. And those are just the pianos. Like, again, let's go to this website one more time. That, again, is under the Labs page, this Getting Started link. There's more FAQs, what is Labs? So a lot of information online. And if you have any additional questions, put them down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to take a look and try to help you out as best as I can. Okay, now the other thing I wanted to talk about, and this can actually be discovered under the Spitfire website, but it's Pianobook. So if you go to Spitfire Audio and Discover, and if you look here, aside from Labs, you see BBC Symphony Orchestra, which I'll talk to at the end, and then you see Pianobook. And Pianobook is the next thing I want to talk about. So Pianobook has 1,428 sample packs, and these are sample packs for different types of instruments that you can load up in a sampler and start playing those instruments across your piano or across your MIDI device, or start writing in the MIDI notes in the MIDI editor to trigger those. So you can go to the Sample Packs tab and see all of the different instruments and then click on them. And at the bottom here, you actually see what types of samplers that these packs are designed for. So there's the free decent sampler, then there's Contact, then there's EXS24 and SFZ. Contact, there's a free version with some free virtual instruments from Native Instruments to use. but third-party virtual instruments cannot be used in Kontakt outside of demo mode. So after a certain amount of time, that instrument's just going to shut off and you're not going to be able to use it. So if you're going to use the Kontakt ones, make sure that you buy the full version of Kontakt. But again, you can download the free Decent Sampler to get many of these instruments absolutely free. Okay, so in order to use Pianobook, we're going to go and get that sampler. So go to decentsamples.com, and then here you go to the Decent Sampler plugin tab and click Download Free. And under this, you can see the $0 price tag, which is absolutely amazing. It's a bunch of volunteers that create these sample packs, and the quality is amazing. So let's go in here. We're going to click Download Sampler for your operating system, and you'll have to sign up with a little bit of information. And then when you're ready, click Submit and Download. Okay, that downloads the installer to your Downloads folder or wherever you download your files to. Open up the installer, and it's either an exe for Windows or a Mac package for Mac. You go through all of the installation instructions, enter your password and all that stuff if necessary. And once you get to the end, there'll be a summary that says it's installed successfully if you ran through that package installer successfully. Unlike Spitfire Audio, you don't need a separate application. So Decent Sampler you can run right in your DAW. You can just create a new track. On the insert, search for Decent Sampler. And I'm going to go with VST3 again on this. Now this is why I go with VST3 over VST2, because I can just expand this window if I wanted to. And when you see the instrument, it's actually really nice to see all of the parameters expand with it. Now that's the sampler, but then you're going to want to be able to use specific samples as well. And that's where Pianobook comes in. So we can go to Sample Packs, click on Decent Sampler to find the sample packs that were created in this format so that you can load them in and open them up in your DAW under the Decent Sampler VST. There's plenty of different filters. Again, we can look at pianos or choirs. We can look at highest rated overall, most downloaded, other ways to see what are other people using and what are ones that other people like just to get started. Because there's so much here that it gets overwhelming sometimes. I'm going to just wipe everything out from the filters and just do what is the most popular one right now overall, or the highest rated one overall. And this is a collection of retro synth sounds. Sometimes there'll be a little audio wave on the side that you can demo. But in order to download these, you just go under the downloads and click the button here. Now this button will tell you what format you're downloading it for. So right now this is created for Decent Sampler. So it's going to create it for a Decent Sampler format. Sometimes there's multiple. So you might see Decent Sampler, SFZ, Kontakt, and then what you're downloading is basically the sample packs for that instrument for all of those formats. But just make sure it says Decent Sampler if you're using Decent Sampler. So we click this button. Okay, and this is where we download the pack to our downloads folder. It takes a little bit because a lot of these packs have many files in it for the samples. Okay, and then you open the zip file and you get a folder. And in this folder, there's the DS library. So that's what you need in order to open this. Now, with the Spitfire Audio, I pointed it to a folder on my external hard drive that I wanted to install the sound banks. Well, in this case, with these Pianobook sound banks or Decent Sampler, you have to do that part manually. And it's very easy. So you just go to your external drive or wherever you want to store these sample packs. And then I have a sound banks folder that I always put all my sound banks into. And I created a folder in here specifically for Decent Sampler. Or you could create a Pianobook folder and just put all your Pianobook stuff in one folder. But I put the Decent Sampler here, and then you can take the downloads, click and drag that folder into the Decent Sampler folder. And when you go and open this or browse for this in Decent Sampler in your DAW, as long as you have this DS library file, it should find it. Okay, so I just moved this over for the first time. So we're going to go back to our DAW, and then we're going to click Browse, and Browse opens you up to the sample store. But then you can go to the file browser to check where your sample libraries are stored on your machine or your external hard drive. The first time you click this, it's going to ask you for a location. So when it does, just point it to whatever folder you created, like the Decent Sampler folder that I created, and it should be able to find all those Decent Sampler libraries in that folder. So click the arrow and you'll see the library, and then you can just double click. Now for some of these, it'll have you choose a preset to start off with. So I just picked one right here. So let's just play it. Okay, let's try another one. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so that sounds pretty good. And a lot of these different sample packs have different parameters that you can adjust. So this has the ADSR parameters here, attack, decay, sustain, release. So you can actually modify those directly in Decent Sampler. And then there's a few other parameters as well. But when you go to different presets, you can adjust these as necessary for whatever sound you're looking for. But this is just one of the thousands of free sample packs that you can load up in Decent Sampler and use, and it sounds amazing. Now, I downloaded a few others, so this is kind of like a punk virtual synth kind of sound, and it has 3 different presets. So let me open this one up, for example, and let's just take a listen here. Okay. And it's not just synths and pianos, though. It's all types of instruments. So you have thousands of those packs for Pianobook, and you have the, I believe, 60 free labs that you can get with Spitfire Audio. You know, if you sum them up, I think it's around 1,500 free instruments. Definitely check that out. Definitely use the Decent Sampler for that stuff. Okay, so once we have those packs installed, let's lay something down real quick just to see the capabilities of this. So I'm going to record arm this again on the first track, the Spitfire track, and then I'm just going to make sure I have a piano selected. Okay, let's go down. Okay, so let's just lay that down. Let's get a tempo. Okay, record. Okay, now let's cut some of this stuff, get it into line a little bit, and then cut out this excess here. Okay, so I have my 4 bars here. I'm going to put them here, actually. A lot of the times I'll quantize the MIDI so that it's in line, and then I might even add a little bit of swing by going down here and changing the swing. Here, I'm just going to highlight all the notes in a chord and then just drag it to the bar line, okay? Because I don't want that roll necessarily to be taken away because I quantize every note, because then it's just going to sound like I played those chords like... Right, I like that dramatic effect that I added to it. Okay, so let's hear that back. Okay, it's not perfect, but we can work with it. So we're going to record arm this track now. So this one's the Decent Sampler with the Pianobook instrument in it. And I'll just make sure that I have one of those synths selected in the browser. Okay, let's record something. Okay, and you can just go from here. So you could add in other instruments and layer those on top. When you're producing, don't focus too much on the instrument selection. Just work with, okay, I need a piano, get a piano out there fast. And then you can start swapping in different instruments. Like I could take this piano line and I could go and change this to that tape piano. And then the tape piano sound will be coming out. But at least I had that recorded piano line to work with. I also want to mention, since we saw it earlier, and because it's also a cool plugin as well, but if we go back to the Spitfire website, and you'll see that there are actually 3 things here. So we talked about labs, we talked about Pianobook, which we're using Decent Sampler to load, but then there's this BBC Symphony Orchestra. That's a collection of orchestral sounds that you can use in your DAW and pull it up similar to labs, and they actually sound pretty good. So if you go to your Spitfire Audio application, and if you didn't have it installed, it'd be under not installed. For me, it's under installed. But once you have that installed, you can go to Reaper And I'll just do BBC Symphony Orchestra. We'll click insert. And then here I'm just going to do Spitfire again. And it's actually like a separate VST or separate AU, a separate plugin, I should say, for the Symphony Orchestra than from Labs. So make sure you click that one. And when you click add, you'll get this ensemble selection kind of setup. So you have all the different types of orchestral instruments in a certain kind of positioning, like you would if you were going to a concert. Now, if you click this button, you can select all the different types of instruments. So you have piano options, percussion, and this operates very similar to Labs. Let's pull in, like maybe we want to bring in under strings, maybe a cello or something low, a bass, right? So double click or click load. And then we want to make sure we're in the range that that instrument exists in on our MIDI device. So that's down here. So that's what a long note sounds like. And we can do a pizzicato for a short note. Let's just see what we can do. Okay, nowhere near polished, lots of mixing to do, lots of arranging. It's not all perfectly in time, but now we have Spitfire Audio Labs with a piano instrument, decent sampler with a Pianobook synth instrument, and then Spitfire BBC Symphony Orchestra. So I hope this inspired you to go out and check out these sounds. Again, they're all free. There's no harm in downloading, installing, and trying these out, and I implore you to do so. I know I just gave you a glimpse of the possibilities that these thousands of sample packs and virtual instruments have, but you can now see why Spitfire Audio Labs and Pianobook are getting all of this praise, because there's so many free quality instruments that you can take. You can kind of craft them as your own inside of those instruments, those virtual instruments, but then you can go ahead and craft them outside and add things like reverb, delay, anything that you want, and really make that sound your own and have them fit into your projects. So if this video helped you out, definitely hit the like button and share it with your friends. Subscribe if you want more videos like this. I'll definitely be showing more instruments in the future that I think everybody should know about, especially free ones for those of us just getting started, or for anybody, because the quality of the free stuff has drastically improved in the last decade or so. And that leads me to the end of this, so I'm going to leave you with this little progression to listen to with it all together, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.